for Variant and second Galloping Savior are the two Blessings of Authority that we saw from che0nsu just a while ago. I'm not sure if that is going to help or hurt him so much in this particular matchup, but I can tell that the opening hand is going to be very important. If che0nsu can get early Flesh Giant, that can be really tough for Lamby to clear, even with a buffed Samuro.
Two of my favorite players to watch on the webcam when they are playing, very emotive players when things go their way or don't, for that matter. But either way, interesting mulligans already from both players. che0nsu, I suppose it makes sense you just get rid of both the cards, look for the more powerful effects immediately, like the card draw, hand plus matron as well. But for lambyseries, like holding onto a 1-drop, yeah, it's good. Righteous Protector is a powerful card, but he didn't necessarily guarantee himself any of the busted early plays, like getting the sword potentially to pull out the secrets. Bannerman as one of the most powerful early game plays in Paladin's arsenal.
Did pick up that Bannerman now to go alongside the Goody 2 shields, which is looking like a decent curve for Lamby, only looking for a good turn 4 really. And this is one of those matchups where I highly advocate playing Conviction pretty proactively as long as it hits 2 targets. If any of them have Divine Shield, it's relatively tough for che0nsu to clear them. He's not running School Spirits or Soul Rend. He does still have the Unstables and the touch of the Nathrazim, but it's still gonna have to take a combination of cards or the Broomstick to deal with those minions. And Lamby now picking up McGurgle gives him at least a decent turn 4 alongside second Righteous, or he could just play the Commander as a Yeti.
Ooh, that's a pretty spicy combo. che0nsu needs to be thinking about how he's... Well, it's a couple of things, right? Because already next turn, he has Dark Glare Stealer plus Flame Imp, but you kind of want Raised Dead to be online before you start popping off with Dark Glare, but then how do you get minions into the pool without playing Dark Glare first? So maybe he's just going to be, I don't know, playing Flame Imp onto the board, because then you can Raised Dead and play it again. There's a lot of different avenues you can take here.
It's really tough. I mean, this is looking exactly like what che0nsu had, honestly. This
right.
4 situation where che0nsu opted, I think, for Dark Glare tap and then Flame Imp, and then he floated 2 mana. che0nsu could go for hold the Flame Imp, go for Dark Glare, tap Flame Imp, and then play the Stealer. So your card doesn't cost health by that point, but you get 3 minions at once. But if the upside is 3 minions at once, then I do like the idea of just get the Flame Imp down right now.
Lamby greeting it out hard as well. I was not entirely sure if Bannerman was the play there. Like, it's the obvious kind of first port of call, but Goody 2 Shields was already a 5-3. Like, that's a lot of pressure to start pushing on your opponent.
It is. I was so tempted to go for that, but the obvious upside to Lamby's play is it is no holds barred from here on out. He goes Northwatch plus Righteous. He has all of his minions hiding behind these Divine Shield taunts, which is very annoying for che0nsu, and that means that very likely the Battle Master is going to stick some big stats, and che0nsu in the meantime very likely to be damaging his own face by that point. So I think Lamby's game plan is forming up here, even though I don't necessarily know where either the 2 shields or Commander comes into play, because he only gets to play one of those, I think.
Oh, goes for Stealer tap and hits Raised Dead. Obviously not what you're looking for. It's not a bad card to get at this point in the game, because he can of course cheapen his Flesh Giant for 0 mana. He can go Dark Glare plus the Raised Deads as well. As I think that Pack Mule might be slightly too encumbered as it's fallen down and died.
One of them is too shy. I'm not that morbid. He's just shy. He's not dead.
Okay.
But the Stealer does present some questions for Lamby. Obviously, he doesn't have the capability to kill it with this hand, and so the next best thing is put the most stats on board. 2 Divine Shields. che0nsu knows what's up when he sees this placement. Highest attack in the middle. I think you can tell that a Battlegrounds Battle Master is coming online for another +9 damage next turn, but che0nsu is going to cheat a lot of mana this turn.
And this is the punish for not going Goody 2 Shields previous turn. I didn't bring it up because I didn't think of it at the time. But the fact that you can't then go for actually killing a Stealer that's just played on the board next turn, you have to consider that, especially when a free admission was just played. And so now che0nsu gets, full permission to just go completely as crazy as he wants.
He doesn't though. Okay, I said this positioning smells like Battle Master. Battle Master equals 18 damage just from the two minions in the middle. che0nsu does have the touch of Nathrism, so he can go up to 19 here, but that means like all the other stuff he wants to play costs his health, right? He will get lifesteal ticks. I'm not sure if it all works out. I think the only real punish to Lamby's play here was Broomstick on top of everything, right? Because then he'd be able to clear minions.
I mean, yes and no. The other punish was he draws backfire and then you just die, right? Like, it's possible that things go disastrously wrong at that point. But yes, outside of the crazy plays, you're not wrong.
Okay, well, che0nsu discounting the two giants to 0 now means that this one giant on the right doesn't cost him any health, but it turns out that this is still just 19 damage exactly with the Battle Master.
Yeah, he's counting it up, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 19. That's going to do it. Battle Master, even as a 7-7, not making any difference, and just pushing through for lethal there. che0nsu, he gave it a good shot, and he will, of course, be thinking, was there any way I could have sequenced that better? Pop off with Dark Glare earlier. Maybe if he'd saved the Flame Imp, he could have gone for a more impactful Dark Glare turn. But all in all, I don't think he was too greedy with his gameplay. He was throwing out his minions very liberally in that game. And again, it just was not enough to fight back against Paladin. So far, Paladin has just been looking so difficult to fight back against for these combo decks.
Divine Shield is a very strong mechanic right now for some reason. The hand buffing also very relevant. Again, I'm not saying that your criticism of Lamby's line of play wasn't valid because I still think he gets there just by playing the goody 2 shields a little bit earlier. But I think he still set up a board where he knew that he had lethal more likely than not. I'm not sure which way around is better against what you were talking about as the other out from che0nsu aside from Broom, which is just popping off with the combo. That remains to be seen. But one thing I will tell you is Battle Master is such a sick card in this meta. I think that singular card is helping these aggro decks stay alive against what can be extremely powerful and fast combo decks.
Battle Master is a powerful card in this metagame, but you know what another powerful card is? Tamsin Roam. In this particular build, she is absolutely cracked out of her gourd. The shadow spells in this deck are disgusting. I feel like whenever I'm playing Paladin or Hunter, I don't know, any of these board-based, slightly aggressive decks, you think you're winning, you get ahead on board, even like the Zoo Warlock that you're playing, they play Tamsin, they just play 50 spells, heal for 1 billion, clear your board. It's just completely ridiculously strong. And it's kind of, I think, the thread that ties this deck together for me, because of all the builds of Warlock, this is the one I stared at for the longest when I saw it and just tried to figure out why? Why this list? I feel like it's cut all the good things in Warlock with like the Stealer of Souls, the Hand and the Matron. Yes, it's got the Flesh Giant, but when you see it in action, it just works. It somehow seems to make sense.
It is a deck that can function as both control and hit you in the face for a ton because you are running Battlegrounds Battle Master. But you're right about Tamsin. I think Tamsin Roam is straight up better than Tamsin Roam the quest reward in this deck because of the infinite healing you get. But it is a very matchup specific build of Warlock. Like, I enjoyed playing this on ladder a lot because that day there was a lot of quest Shaman, there was a lot of face hunter, there was a lot of Paladin decks that I knew I could run them out of resources or just go for one big board swing where I go Soul Rend plus the Baron Scavengers and they kind of just roll over and die. Against a more quest-heavy lineup or a burn-heavy lineup, I'm not necessarily sure if this will work because I do think this version is terrible against OTK Demon Hunter and quite bad against Mage as well.
Yeah, that's obviously the downside. You're slowing yourself down in terms of your OTK potential and your aggressive potential. It's much more of an anti-aggro list, which is, again, I think a decent hedge for this week. There's a good amount of aggro knocking about, specifically from lambyseries, as we are going to be seeing with his build of the Warlock. I would say still a relatively aggressive build, but it's more so you're looking to get good matchups against the Face Hunter and the Face aggro Shaman as well.
Okay. I think I should rein in my statement about terrible against Demon Hunter a little bit because one thing you can do in that matchup is like just chain Neophytes, make that the only thing in your race dad pool, play that a bunch of times, and then at one point they'll have Giants alongside them and you kill them that way. But it's a bit specific. In this matchup, the Mirror I think that there is potential for this more control-y version from Lamby to shine. It will depend on the Soul Rend big time though. Soul Rend does catch Bloodbound Imp in its grasp. It doesn't get, it also catches Nightshade Matron, but it doesn't get, importantly, Flesh Giant and Stealer of Souls. So I think it's up to che0nsu to build a board that is not so vulnerable to Soul Rend in order to really get anything done. Because once the Soul Rend comes down, Lamby is very likely to be able to just swing any board efficiently from that point.
Well, a decent starting hand from che0nsu, to be fair, though. He's got the free admission, just goes with Dark Claire on 2, which is kind of surprising, because I was anticipating just tap to try and fill up your hand a bit more.
Yeah, it's a bit interesting. Maybe with that free admission, he's just hoping for this to stick around, go for an early Stealer.
Wow.
Okay, or just the double Bloodbound Imps. Oh man, he held back a little bit on that other Dark Lair. Lamby does have this Soul Rend. It was almost a complete disaster for che0nsu there. But this does become a question for Lamby, right? He's doing the math in his head. How much is Flesh Giant if I leave this Bloodbound Imp up? che0nsu has not tapped yet, right? But after one attack and one tap, I guess that's just 2 procs and not a quest completion. So I think he's safe to hold out for a bit longer.
Yeah, there's not going to be a Flesh Giant next turn. Pretty much guaranteed. It'd be very, very unlikely for that to happen. Now for che0nsu though, like, you could go Matron and discard the Touch of Nathrazim as the most expensive card in your hand. But now, however, things are looking a little bit more juicy. No way to make it work on this turn because no minion... oh no, wait. Yeah, you just attack. Great, let's go.
He can even get 5 mana if he wants by playing the other Dark Lair. I don't know if you should do that because of Soul Rend, but that tap first for exactly Hand of a Doll was a huge reward for che0nsu. Granted, this is still quite weak to Soul Rend, but at least it's one out of his hand, or lambyseries' resource pool, and che0nsu has hella resources with all these minion drawn and the double raised deads as well.
Yep, slamming the Soul Rend, sorry, without even thinking about it. Losing Giant, that's one of the bad ones. You definitely don't want to be seeing that go as your premier way to fight back and actually start racing your opponent and make use of these Battlegrounds Battle Masters. But even so, it's a good way to just clear the board and reset, take stock of your situation, and you can carry on next turn with trying to actually get ahead on board.
Yeah, this is a bit rough though because Soul Rend without an immediate 6/6 to follow up or a Flesh Giant kind of works the same way as Twisting Nether back in old Control Warlock, where you are just handing initiative back to your opponent, and che0nsu has tons of ways to refill. One of them is Stealer of Souls, and the Dark Lair will be able to refresh his mana here so he can tap if he wants and make that cost health. Alternatively, just go second Dark Lair, second Raise Dead, and then tap. Oh my goodness!
Yeah, this is maximum damage effects, maximum health, well, maximum damage to himself as well to try and get this quest completed as soon as possible. That's a whiff. You were definitely looking for card draw or just something big to lose a lot of health with. But even so, he's still drastically ahead on board. He's just seen a Soul Rend. So this board straight up is really hard to clear.
I'm not aware of what his quest ticker is at, sorry, but even if it were just one-off completion, I do prefer getting the Bloodbound down instead of playing the Touch of the Nathrazim here. With che0nsu's game plan, which is so aggressively cutting into his own health, I like saving that resource for a little bit of healing just in case it's necessary, though. He does need that Manari, have that Manari Mosher to make that a bit better. No second Soul Rend for Lamby. This is highly problematic now. 14 cards left in deck. It's still a ways off from being able to get that Bloodshard Bristleback to deal 6 lifesteal.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if he can get away to... So clearing the Stealer of Souls is first on my priority list with just double Drain Soul. But can you get the Giant down in the same turn? It's just that little bit too expensive, even with double 0 mana Touch of the Nathrazim.
Yeah, I don't know. There's no way he can really afford to tap here, even though every card draw closer to 10 cards is huge for Lamby here. So is it something like maybe Neophyte Drain Soul, try to disrupt just a little bit? I don't know. Has to kill the Stealer. Just have to die, I think.
'Cause Leaving up these Dark Glares hurts, make no mistake. You know, you don't want to do this. But as you said, it's going for maximum disruption on this turn. And now che0nsu is saying, right, 2 is good, but 3 is a crowd. And popping off here.
He just has so much mana.
He gains mana by tapping. That is disgusting.
Illegal. Illegal. Can play Musher first and then go touch? Okay, sure. Free admission and then he can touch.
Attack.
Or play flame it. Yeah, he has all the manas. All the manas.
Oh my goodness. Attack gained 3 mana. Absolutely disgusting. Here as well, could even like play flame him first. Like he just wants to, I think, complete his quest.
It's not a big deal at all.
Yeah, he wasted a mana, but he's trying to be as efficient with his quest as possible. He'd already done level 2. I don't know. Very, very weird overall. But he's getting minions played. He's filling up his board. Even if he floats mana, that's fine. That was probably an inevitability with having 3 Dark Glares on the board. So this is just fine.
Yeah.
He playing Tamsin as well?
Yeah, he goes up to 5 after this, right?
Yeah.
So,
oh my god. Animations?
There you go. He did it. Did he do it? I think he got it.
He did it.
Damn.
Oh my god.
I was very tongue-in-cheek about saying, oh, he floated a mana. I mean, being able to have the foresight to see the lines to get a full board with the board space, having enough mana, getting your health totals on right. It's a lot of small math you have to do. And even though che0nsu absolutely did not need Tamsin to win this game, this is a flashy way to close it out indeed.
Yeah, it really is. We, if there's anything we learned from our testing sessions, it's that there are so many ways to mess up those kinds of Warlock turns. There are so many things to think about, and it can go wrong in ways you didn't even think possible. che0nsu there doing a fantastic job, even if there were micro, ways he could have improved things, take less damage, complete his quest more efficiently, whatever. He got the job done, made it essentially impossible for lambyseries to be able to claw his way back into the game, and now we have a much closer affair than we had in the previous series. 1 game apiece, Paladin taking the win, Warlock taking the win, and I hope for lambyseries that this Warlock doesn't end to be a sticking point, because this kind of no-hands gamer build, as I think was the player to first come up with this specific build, it does have a lot of merit, but it's not the list that most players would choose. He was kind of going out on a limb a little bit here by bringing this specific build, so I hope it doesn't bite him in the end.
I do enjoy this build because you play those Battlegrounds Battle Masters, but again, I do feel the weak point is potentially against the combo decks, of which che0nsu has 2 left, OTK Demon Hunter and Quest Mage. So on paper, this Warlock is far too slow against those, but it still has that win condition, right? The Cult Neophytes, you chain those back to back, raise dead them. Eventually, they'll be the Flesh Giants are cheap enough to play alongside them, and then you can just beat them down. But if you don't hit the Neophytes, my goodness, do you feel useless in the early turns.
And not only against OTK Demon Hunter, against Quest Mage as well, as we are seeing from che0nsu here. Pretty cool build. It's not a... not too flashy, but overall he's got a good amount of defensive capabilities. Double Ice Barrier in there I think is very nice in this metagame and will do well against lambyseries. I've got to say, I kind of prefer Dawn's list that we saw. At least he had pre-submission. I'm not sure if he's gone with it post. I think he has as well. Where you just have double Shattering Blast, which is an objectively terrible card in this metagame, but that's what makes it so good. The fact that it's just an unconditional 2 extra frost spells that you can play in such a combo-heavy meta where completing your quest as quickly as possible is all that matters. I think that build has a lot of merit. But here for che0nsu, he's kind of hedged his bets a little bit. He's gone for more of a middle ground where less strong against the combo decks because his quest is a little bit slower to complete, but much more ability to keep up with the aggressive decks, which will serve him very well against Lamby.
Yeah, I think the builds of Quest Mage these days are almost all just running 1 hot streak. Again, the problem of this deck against combo decks is you oftentimes don't have targets for your frost spells and sometimes fire spells.
Exactly.
Fire spells have been kind of solved by just running Fire Sail and Fireball, which you can chuck face or just play on nothing and it still gets your quest a bit progressed. For the Frost spells, though, you literally cannot play Flurry if they don't have a board. You cannot play Brain Freeze if there's no minion on board. So by running one Thief, you can give yourself a Brain Freeze target, and at the same time, it's a somewhat efficient card compared to Shattering Blast, which oftentimes does nothing. But it does have certain times where you do get stuck with Flurry with Flurry in hand, but not Brain Freeze. So One Thief has its ups and downs. Not necessarily sure which version is better against Lamby's deck, but I have a suspicion that maybe Dawn's does have some merit, because being able to like Flurry Shattering Blast the Flash Giant is decent.
It's big. It can be very, very big in this matchup, as you said, with the Giants being the real kickers that are very difficult to clear before you've completed your quest and have Tamsin online. Weird hand for che0nsu, I will say, where you can trade Fire Sale on this turn if you don't want to use the coin, you don't want to use the cram session until you find some spell damage. But Fire Sale's not a terrible card to have. Just to be able to have a fire spell that you can guaranteed play is worth quite a lot.
And starting off with the coin, Arcane Intellect does give him 1 proc on the Arcane, and Cantor's Flow is always great to see early. You don't care that you're wasting an Arcane spell towards quest completion. It's not a waste. This card is just making all of the rest of your deck so efficient, and being able to play the second one, che0nsu, with that Refreshing Spring Water in hand is looking very powerful. And for Lamby, the Cult Neophytes are nowhere in sight. He does have access to turn 5 Flesh Giant, though, which is not the worst, but man, does it look bad against Brain Freeze.
And I think as much as you don't want to play this tour guide out because you don't want to give the Mage targeted abilities for both their fire spells and their frost spells, or minions to shoot with them, I should say, given that he has Raise Dead in hand, double Flesh Giant, he needs to start cheating some mana. These Flesh Giants are his own priority, and I agree, his main priority, sorry. And it's more important to progress your own game plan than to disrupt your opponent's game plan here. And so just playing it out to cheat as much mana as possible, I agree with from Lammy.
And for che0nsu, deliberate order here to play the Arcane Intellect before completing the first proc of the spell, because the first proc of the quest, draws you a card. So he is going to get the discount. And he still had that Primordial Studies in hand, right? So that's still an Arcane spell he gets for second proc on quest completion. With the second Brain Freeze as well, all he needs is a Fire spell, and then that'll be the second step done. But now, the Brain Freezes are gone. So Lamby is about to go in with these Flesh Giants, and that's a Battle Master. Okay.
All right.
Now we're talking.
We are most certainly talking, as this could be double Flesh Giant on this turn, right? With the quest completing, Raise Dead. Oh,
That is so worth. I think it is. He's seen 2 Brain Freezes. Yeah, Flurry exists, but without Neophyte, he has to take some risks here. It feels bad to use 1 Raise Dead when you don't have Flesh Giants in the pool yet, but this could just be win next turn, right? If you stick 2 Flesh Giants and then go Battlegrounds Battle Master on them.
Things are going badly. Things are going wrong here for lambyseries, because he's seen double...
Very smart. This is so
That's really smart.
Yeah. By going for the Tour Guide plus Drain Soul, he does get to change his health, not by damaging it, but any change counts towards Flesh Giant discount. So he gets those down, still saves Raise Dead for possible Flesh Giant resurrections, and gives himself the out for immediate lethal with Battle Master. che0nsu does get a Fire spell, though. That was the only one he was lacking for the second proc. Shattering Blast, not really good right now.
Oh, if he goes AI into Flurry, though, he just wins the game. He literally just wins the game.
Well, Lamby can instead, but oh my god! Oh my god!
There's no way. There's no way.
You always run Shattering Blast. You always run it. Dawn knew. You knew. I'm sorry I doubted.
We'll forgive you this one time, me and Dawn. Oh my god. Absolutely disgusting. lambyseries knows it. And at this point, as cool as his play was, and correct, I absolutely agree with going for second Tour Guide plus Drain Souling it. He now has 2 of each. He's far from guaranteed double Giant back. He's not even guaranteed 1 Giant necessarily.
75, or sorry, the most likely outcome is to just get yourself 1 of each of the Giant and Tour Guide. 50% of the time. No choice, though. The worst part is You can't really even conveniently clear the lab partner. It might be worth a soul rend, not even kidding. I don't know.
But I mean, then for che0nsu, it's just 5-7. It's almost just straight up a clear with the second flame, right? It doesn't quite get there, but you can at very least clear off the Battle Master.
And now che0nsu has to do some quick math. Can he survive this Wind Fury Giant and the Battle Master on board and get away with playing Varden? I think yes, with Ice Barrier. And then he kind of just wins next turn, right? Because he has 2 flows played and a Cram Session in hand.
16. If he plays another Battle Master in between the two, it's 26 damage with Ice Barrier. He'd still be fine. Or if he just goes second flame to kill off the Battle Master itself. Either way, I think he would be absolutely fine.
Yeah, I think it was 26 max damage. So going to essentially 35 with the barrier and playing Varden, I was much more into than this, but it still seems fine. Like, Lamby needs to have the other race dead here.
Yeah, I guess the scary bit was if they put you to like 6 health or something, or maybe if it was even like 8 or 10, and then they play Neophyte, maybe that gets a little bit scarier if they tap and go double Neophyte. Like, I think you don't even want to give them that possibility. And by taking this very safe route, che0nsu can still just go Varden plus Cram Session next turn and still be in a very, very good position.
That's a very good point. I failed to account for the Neophytes. Just hasn't shown up for Lamby. I guess he has one more draw to get it with the Mortal Coil, but knowing that Varden's in hand, he doesn't necessarily know about Cram Session, but by that point, you are just kind of hoping Mage never draws any card draw, and then you have to worry about the 7/7 on board, and the only really proactive thing he can do outside of resurrecting more Flesh Giants is Neophyte. Oh.
Yeah, the Bristleback's just not active quite yet. The pair of Battle Masters is not something you see all too often. And while it's good, it's powerful, giving each other Wind Fury, it's not going to be anywhere near enough. Because remember, if this wasn't strong enough from che0nsu, he'll be able to play every card he draws. They all cost 2 less. And so Second Flame, Brain Freeze, Flurry, whatever it needs to be, he should be just fine.
If he put the Bristleback in the middle, does it get Mega Wind Fury?
I'm going to say no.
Okay, here we go from che0nsu. Ignite for 0, draw 4 for 0.
It's almost just lethal, right? Like if you hit Mana Biscuit, you can literally... Oh, he's not running Biscuit. But either way, you know, you're pretty much just...
I think he's just trying to be safe here. I mean, Ignites post flows won't cost 0 again, but if che0nsu clears this board, he has unlimited resources. So just making sure he lives to see another turn. Very by the book. I think it is clean. And yeah, even at this point, if Lamby does get the Neophyte, that chance trying to actually get lethal with the time you buy from it.
Just passing, sure. I mean, you can just go for one fell swoop for lethal next turn. It's... I mean, that has to be lethal, right? Fireball, Ignite, Ignite, Rune,
You never
Rune.
count.
Yeah,
You never count here. Ulren, Thalnos Coil gets him sub cards. Yuck. Yeah, sorry. Lamby knows he's lost, right? I think he's just playing a little mini game here of can you get active Bristleback this turn and play it?
Yeah, active Bristleback or draw both Neophytes. If you go Thalnos Coil and then it discounts your hand, you can try and go Soul Rend, but then you
never draw more than 1 here this turn is the thing.
Well, if you go Thalnos Call your own Thalnos, then you can draw 2 in a very desperate situation, but then you're of course leaving Varden on board. So, I mean, yes, I agree.
Well, this is very lethal, but a nice chance to showcase Baron Scavenger and its kind of weird interaction because the card text says on 10 cards, or when your deck has 10 cards or less, this costs 1. So it kind of evokes I-Beam, right? This costs 1 Outcast. But it can be discounted to 0, unlike I-Beam in Outcast position. Just some weird trivia for this meta.
Yeah, not sure how I feel about that one. But I'm not sure how lambyseries will be feeling about that. Despite playing a 0 mana 6/6, Mage laughs in the face of that as che0nsu sails through to a 2-1 lead, looking to be in a very good spot. And overall, I think just playing the Mage very, very well. He knew all the tricks of the trade, like going for the very cute play of uncomboed Brain Freeze on the tour guide pre-level 1 completion, then when he'd done it, going for the second Brain Freeze on the same tour guide to get both Frost Spells played on one minion. It's just minor optimizations like that that can lead you to just completing the quest one turn sooner, Tamsin coming down one turn earlier, and even as he had the option to put down Tamsin on turn 6, he instead decided to delay that for a turn, go for a more safe route, clearing off everything, and I think he knew after playing, I don't know how many reps of that matchup he would have done up until this point, he will know that that was just an absolute lock at that point.
Yeah, I think Lamby also recognized very well that his best out there was Giants, not necessarily tapping towards Neophytes, but he had just seen 2 Brain Freezes. che0nsu didn't have that many cards, but the combination of the discovered Shattering Blast, which I didn't even think was going to be the best discover option at that point, and then getting the Flurry completely turned the game on its head. It was just clinical from che0nsu by that point. So it is just going to be this Quest OTK Demon Hunter left, which again I think is a similar poor matchup for the Warlock, but it is another matchup where if you get Giants plus Neophytes, it can go in the kind of no hands gamer Warlock's favor, but I don't think it's just one or the other. It has to be a combination of both.
Indeed, and it's interesting because the real problem I find with this particular version of Warlock, again, the Baron Scavenger version that doesn't run the traditional package of free admission and Stealer of Souls and all that, is that it has all the tools to beat OTK Demon Hunter. You've got Flesh Giants for 0 mana, the Scavengers for 1 mana as a 6/6 on board, and then you just go for the very powerful Battle Master. But you don't get either of those online quickly enough against OTK Demon Hunter. You can't go for a big Soul Rend to delete their board and mill your entire deck to get the Scavengers online. You don't have the Dark Glare Flame Imp, Bloodbound Imp combo to get a turn 4 Giant. It can be very difficult to actually get that online quickly enough. But having said that, lambyseries clearly recognized some very cute plays with shooting his own tour guide to get the double Giants down. So if he's ever going to know how to eke out those small percentages to claw your way back into a matchup like this, lambyseries will know how to do it.
Yes, indeed. Starting off on the play once again, I feel like every extra card Demon Hunter gets, they're super happy to have it, especially since having coin gives them ways to get the first proc on quest completion a bit earlier than off coin if you don't get the cards of Sigil Alacrity or Tusk Piercer. Those two are such good keeps because they allow you to progress quest completion by preloading some card draw on turn 2. Whereas if you're on coin, you don't necessarily need them to go something like turn 2 coin acrobatics, something like that.
Well, pretty simple here for Lamby, I guess, just planning out his turns. Typing, maybe having some kind of an issue. But either way, for che0nsu on the other side, we were talking in testing about 2 of the cards in his hand, because if I had to guess without having looked at it after playing a few games what the highest mulligan win rate card would be, it would have to be Sigil of Alacrity. Like, it's so broken when you're trying to complete the quest early on. It gives you a reduce effect just by playing it, even if you don't complete the quest. But apparently Sotul was saying that Persistent Peddler is very high up in the mulligan win rate with a low sample size. So maybe as the games, we get more reps of it being kept in the mulligan, it will even out, because it does not seem like it should be a good keep. But if you just ignore it as what the text actually says and just 1 mana draw a card, that's okay. If you're trying to complete the quest, like if that gives you Il'gynoth or Moarg, that can be very, very powerful, as I think we are finally catching up with what I assume was the issues that lambyseries was having. Hopefully that will be sorted out as soon as possible.
Yeah, going back to the Peddler, I think it's still a mystery whether you're supposed to keep it or not, but it is similar to Crimson Sigil Runner, which doesn't
exactly
outcast in terms of progressing your quest. It's not actually thinning your deck though, which is the downside of keeping it, because at any point you could just draw it back and get the discount on the wrong card, and then you have to spend another mana on putting it back. If your main goal is to discount cards and you knew exactly what you're going to discount, the card is excellent, right? Because you can just keep abusing its tradable ability and the fact that you can cycle it so consistently with Tusk Piercer to get the quest completion. But because it goes back in your deck, I'm not sold on it being a keep. But a while ago I did misspeak, sorry. What you can do on the coin is even if you miss on Alacrity or Tusk Piercer on turn 2, you can go on turn 3 coin Acrobatics with either Sigil Runner or one of these tradable cards, and that progresses the quest. But for che0nsu here, starting off with Moarg and Il'gynoth pre-quest tick means that these cards are never going to cost less than they do now, barring some glide shenanigans, which is pretty problematic.
That's the card, right? This is where you start actively looking for glide off of your Illidari studies, whereas before it's kind of a tech inclusion because you have the benefit of reshuffling a bad hand. And also your opponent has 8 cards in hand at the moment. If you're able to get their hand smaller and shuffle a lot of their bad cards, their good cards back into their deck, you can be very, very happy. Because even right now, che0nsu could just go Illidari studies and pray that he gets a 3-mana glide off of it.
Well, that would be a bold move indeed. But I think he is just going with the guaranteed quest completion alongside that 1 draw from the Alacrity. But again, these are not the greatest discounts. None of them truly relevant combo pieces. It's not impossible, but very difficult to outcast the Sigil Runner from this point moving forward because it's locked in by Il'gynoth. Like, I often talk about soft locking in this deck. You get hard locked by Il'gynoth, but even having like a Moarg or an Arcanist on the left that you don't want to dump can soft lock some of the outcast cards in certain situations. But for che0nsu, I think he's in a spot where he has to do something similar to Shaxi, which is try and get a skull from the Illidari studies.
Lamby's just now in that really awkward spot where he's actually done the plays in the early turns that allow you to play Flesh Giant. Like, Flesh Giant could have been playable on turn 4 this game with tap, Tour Guide, 0-mana tap into Giant on 4. But he hasn't found it, so he doesn't have the ability to apply that early pressure. All he needs, however, from this point on is the Giant. So he's only a draw away from a good time.
All right. This is interesting now for che0nsu. Second quest tick can discount 2 Arcanists, which is very relevant. But he's only drawn 3 cards now, so this other studies has to get him 1 draw at least, and then he can trade the Peddler. Just trade 2 Viper, or the Viper and the Peddler.
Yeah, it could have gone for the double trade effect, but actually just playing the Rustrot Viper to destroy the weapon is huge here, because this deck feels more so than others pretty reliant on actually getting the Mithril Rod active to be able to cheat out all these effects, try and set up for a stronger Battle Master. But by just drawing it off the top, I suppose Lamby is quite happily just going to be carrying on drawing his deck and hopefully making it much cheaper as well.
A very tough decision for che0nsu because that was a pretty premium hand to discount, especially knowing that 2 of your key combo pieces will never be discounted. To discount 2 Arcanists allows him a 30 damage combo on 9 mana, I guess, or 8 if you save the coin, with 1 Moarg, Il'gynoth, and Coinfell Scream Blast. So che0nsu just made the executive decision that he actually buys himself more time by deleting the weapon, and that he will look for ways to get the combo some other way. He misses on Glide again though, so I am super worried about where the discounts can go. He needs like the second Moarg to be discounted or Fell Scream Blast and wait until turn 10. Both of those sound really slow.
And it's interesting because he goes for dumping the coin there as his card to make hand space because he was at 10 cards before he played the Spectral Sight. But I wonder if just like playing the Crimson Sigil Runner, even if it eats up the discount from the Illidari studies, the coin can be so valuable in just getting you that lethal 1 turn earlier, whereas now, you know, it could just be, as I said, a full extra turn before he can go for the true combo.
Really tough decisions because a lot of the time you don't even have the hand space to save the coin for that long, but this is a kind of hand where you can just dump 1 Arcanist and call it a day. I think that is very valid here, but the fact that che0nsu picked up the last Moarg with the discount turn is so big, right? So the philosophies now give him a way to get to turn 8 lethal potentially, maybe turn 9. But now for Lamby, Giant finally enters the hand. How can he best leverage this? He is behind on board against Demon Hunter.
I mean, he's looking at some really strong plays. The thing I'm considering, aside from Giant this turn, is actually Soul Rend, just to be able to try and get that Baron Scavenger 1 turn earlier. You can't go Soul Rend tap because you'd be 1 card short of activating the rod, unfortunately, in order to get it down on the same turn. So I guess it's probably just Flesh Giant as he's going for here and not bothering with the Soul Rend. But it was definitely tempting while there are a lot of minions on board just to try and delete a lot of your deck.
Yeah, you laid it out very cleanly, but the fact that if you go Soul Rend, you can gut neither the Giant nor the Baron Scavenger down this turn, I think is too slow, and that pushes Lamby towards giving up the high effect Soul Rend for now. So first real threat presented, and it's no big deal for che0nsu to deal with this. He has a spare Moarg. There's the Fell Scream in hand. So now he really just has to figure out how to survive until... I mean, with this current hand, turn 10, but as soon as he gets a Philosophy, turn 9, right?
Yes, turn 9 is the break point. And again, because of the coin, it's specifically turn 8, not turn 7 as it could have been if he'd had one extra turn to be able to go for. Oh, sorry, turn 9, not turn 8. And so a big difference in terms of the combo that you can go for. Very, very big.
Wait. Hold on, sorry. I mean, obviously it's not this turn, but I always talk about turn 8, turn 9 accounting for these 36 damage combos, but let's not forget, Lamby is already below 24. There's other types of combinations that che0nsu can get. I don't mind giving up one Arcanist whatsoever because his kind of game plan is already revolving around getting Philosophy anyway. So 2 Moargs, 1 Arcanist is already 36. And if you give yourself those other combinations of 1 Arcanist, 1 Moarg, you only need 18 really. And he can get Lamby down to 18. He's just ahead on board again.
That's true, and there's also always the possibility of just double Moarg with 2 lifesteal spells for 24 is also something that he could look at, which discounts a further mana because it's a 1 mana Moarg. So you're right, I shouldn't be so narrow-minded with the types of combo that he can go for.
And this is always just assuming that Lamby is going to clear every single board. Like, he will. It's no big deal here. This is finally a decent Soul Rend for him. Raise Dead to get Giant would be huge. But the second Lamby actually leaves up a Moarg, maybe he feels like he's safe. Like, che0nsu just goes in, right? He has Eye Beam and Fell Scream Blast. I am certain that Lamby will clear all of the relevant minions here.
Yeah, I think he's cleverly moving away from the Soul Rend here because he doesn't actually have to go for it. He can get Backfire, reduce his hand, and get down the Baron Scavenger and the Flesh Giant and a Raise Dead if he wanted to as well.
Question is how much to commit, because he has seen 1 Arcanist, but there could still be the other with Immolation Aura. I guess because he only has 1 Baron Scavenger, it's not too all in. Like if he plays 1 alongside the Flesh Giant. 2 Giants means that it is not just going to have to be Arcanist plus Immolation Aura. Okay, it is all in, it looks like.
This is very, very all-in. He's just seen a bunch of removal. You know, the Moarg's coming down, shoots his 1-1 for more healing. Yep, sure, let's just get up to as high of a health total as possible, because right now, he just needs more mana.
Yeah, with more mana, I think he gets there, right? Like 18 plus 4 plus 8? Yeah. But you need way more mana than 7. The discounts did not line up for che0nsu. However, he has a clear. It uses all the good combo pieces, but he has to survive. And then you go Moarg, Fell Scream Blast. Ew.
Yeah, well, you can just tank it here. Yeah, and then you still have that potential for like 24 very easily, assuming they have enough minions where you just go Il'gynoth, Moarg, Fell Scream Blast, or if they're 3/5s, then they can actually survive a hit, so your opponent doesn't even have to play any minions at that point. But it's all just a draw away. He's not quite there yet, and it will be at the earliest, I think, turn 9.
Yeah, he needs Philosophies because the natural Moarg was used. We can take a look at the remaining cards for che0nsu in just a bit. 2 of them are the tradables. I could have sworn he played a Sigil early.
He did. Deck Tracker does not like tradables at the moment. It's not the most reliable. Yeah, I think with Quest Demon Hunter specifically, it's not all too happy at the moment. Okay,
but the non-tradables, the non-sigils, are still intact, right? So that means there's Spectral Sight, there's Acrobatics. It's a lot of card draw left, and the 2 Philosophies. So che0nsu can reasonably stay alive and get to his Philosophy. The problem is, I think Lamby's just going to stay very consciously above 24 for as long as he can. He does not need to damage himself. From this point on, I don't know if his best win condition, though, is trying to get to quest completion. Because as it stands, Lamby's deeper in fatigue than che0nsu. It's getting pretty weird.
And of course, him being in fatigue is not necessarily good or bad for him, because of course with Tamsin he can start to damage his opponent, but he actually still has to complete the quest. It's not a foregone conclusion that he will be able to do so necessarily before, you know, without getting himself to such a low life total that he's just dead anyway.
Okay, Spectral is not outcastable because Kurt just blocks it. And the Kurt is really not relevant at this point because there's literally no combo pieces left in the deck. All che0nsu is doing is looking for Philosophy. He finally hits it. And so he has 24 in hand for 9 mana, short of killing lambyseries. But if Lamby somehow messes up, maybe gets a bit too eager to finish the quest, plays Raise Dead and taps, then it's scary.
Right. Oh, but he has to realize with both spell damage gone, right? He has played both of them.
Yeah.
And so the amount of damage that he can deal is, you can kind of track it quite clearly, right?
It's really difficult, I will say that. But yes, he can technically. The allure of Tamsin this turn is too hard to deny, though. He has a taunt, which is huge because, like, is there a position here where both the taunts can't die? Because che0nsu has this weapon charge, right? On 9 mana, he can deal 25 if there's no taunts in the way.
Well, he's just counting up lethal on this turn because he's trying to get... He's trying to play Tamsin, shoot his own tour guide with Unstable, get another Unstable, but he can't play Tamsin, Battlegrounds Battlemaster, Tour Guide, and Unstable. He's 1 mana off being able to play everything he wants, which I think might have actually given him lethal if he had been able to do so, or very, very close to it.
Wait, but the Unstable only deals 5. I don't
deals 5, but he can do it twice. So he would have been able to do 5 and then 3 by shooting his own guy. But he's just 1 mana short, I think.
Oh,
Cult Neophyte!
1 mana short. Oh, the Neophyte! Did he play it?
Okay.
Okay, he got it down. Okay. That tap at the very end, I'm not even sure if that was necessary because maybe you could stay alive just by having the 2 taunts, but because there were just Neophytes basically left in his deck, he had a good chance of getting it. And that means che0nsu has to clear this board to stay alive, and I don't think he can.
Yeah, I mean, that was the difference maker, right? Otherwise, he could have gone 0 mana Philosophy because it was drawn off the Alacrity, 4, 1, 1, 1, and then 2 Fellscream Blasts. So it would have been exactly 9 mana, 36 damage.
Damn.
I think, man, smallest of margins. Like for Lamby, it could have been lethal for 1 more mana last turn.
Yeah, that was insane.
Oh my goodness, very well played by Lamby. Like, I knew what he was counting up at the end just by the cards he was mousing over, but he didn't let himself get he tried to figure it out for a few seconds. He thought it wasn't there. I'm pretty sure he was correct. There was not a lethal on that turn, although maybe I'm missing something, as was he. But then he went with the second best solution, tapped to try and find Neophyte. He got it, he played it, won the game because of it. Very well played overall. I think he understood the weaknesses, but the small strengths of his deck in this matchup by trying to get his biggest threats online as soon as possible. Like when he went all in on that giant scavenger turn, I think that was fine. You just want to force your opponent to have the answers, because even though it didn't actually win him the game on that turn, it forced his opponent to play the second talented Arcanist, which was as good as winning him the game at that point.
Yeah, and for che0nsu's merit too, like recognizing that the Alacrity, I thought the discounts just didn't matter at that point, but you're absolutely right? If it gets Philosophy, which he knew was the very last card in his deck, 3 Moargs plus Il'gynoth plus 2 Fellscream Blasts is well beyond lethal for this matchup, whether or not there are taunts on board, whether or not he gets additional attacks. So it was the Neophyte by that point. After Lamby recognized, I don't think he had a way to get the lethal, even though it was surprisingly close, 1 mana off. going for Disruption instead. And he had gone that entire game without drawing Neophytes, right? Which is pretty unlucky. I talked about how it's such an important card to beat Demon Hunter. Lamby at the very last minute clutching it out there. And now we are all tied here. Last deck for both players. che0nsu on that OTK Demon Hunter again, and Lamby on this Shaman, which is surprisingly popular in APAC. There's so many players bringing this with the Doomhammer.
Yeah, it really is. And it's one of the cards that I think I misread the most, because with Granite Forgeborn specifically, everyone predicted that in, specifically Elemental Shaman, it would be really good, as you'd expect. But I was kind of trying to be a hipster, have a different opinion. I honestly thought it would just be a bit too slow in Elemental Shaman. I thought in the versions that run Doomhammer, Rockbiter Weapon, and the Storm Strike as well, just the very, very high burst damage variants, I thought playing a 4-mana 4/5 would just be too slow. I was quite swiftly proven wrong, because just going Coin Forgeborn into the Lily-Pad Lurker afterwards is just a busted combo, very, very powerful against the likes of Paladin in this metagame, and even Flesh Giants that can come down earlier on as well. And so I think that it's a good list here from lambyseries. Very well understands what you're trying to go, because I think this week specifically, as strong as Quest Shaman is, it's a little bit too slow. With all these combo decks knocking about, I'd rather have a very high burst damage version, which this Elemental Shaman does very well, so I think it's good recognition.
After a couple games of Quest Shaman, the best things I do with the deck was just like, oh, I cheat so much mana with the first quest tick. I get to play so many minions. It turns out that Elemental Shaman does that just a little bit better, cheating mana with the Granite Forgeborn and the Kindling Elemental. And your resource generation doesn't stop either, because the curve is so consistent. You're still playing Diligent Note Takers and the Custodians to draw the good cards, and the Dungeoneers. But oh my goodness, this is the hand. Kindling into Coin Granite. Play the flow. All the elementals. Cheap, cheap, cheap.
Oh my god, it's disgusting. He can go Coin Forgeborn into Earth Revenant if he wants to, which obviously isn't the most amount of damage, but it's a huge amount of health to protect the rest of his board. And for che0nsu now...
Any gliders in chat?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of gliders in chat. I just don't know if it's correct, because... Like, he can go Spectral Sight, of course, but if he plays it this turn, he only does 3 out of 4 quest completion, which sucks. You don't want to burn your card draw when you're not doing the quest. But maybe it's just Chaos Leech. Like, it's a decent card in the matchup. It can kill the Forgeborn, obviously, if you can outcast it. But that's quite hard to do.
The thing is, all these cards are hard to outcast if it's not Spectral Sight, but the Spectral brings up the same problem you were mentioning a while ago. I was gonna say Spectral and just play it so you have resources even though you're not using it to complete the quest, like it didn't start in your deck anyway. But che0nsu is a glider, not in chat, but in front of all of us. And oh man, it's hard to outcast this, but bear in mind, Glide is a card that you don't necessarily have to outcast. Sometimes it's actually bad for you to outcast it. If your opponent has less than 4 cards in hand, you're actually just drawing them cards. And the discounts on the Forgeborn, those are permanent, right? Whether they get shuffled back into your deck. So che0nsu might use this just as for his own quest completion.
Man, I mean, yes, you are not wrong. And so I was wondering if he might even just like slam it down on this turn just to complete the quest and try and get himself a stronger anti-aggro hand. But with the quest completion he did go for, he got himself one heck of a juicy hand. This is the nuts in an anti-aggro matchup like this.
Yeah. Oh man, but Lamby's curve is so powerful. Gonna go for the Dungeoneer first. And honestly, Lily-Pad Lurker just as a 5/6, you don't care about the battle cry. That is a lot of power. It requires either a juiced I-Beam or a juiced Immolation Aura to deal with. And at this point, che0nsu's game plan is really difficult to parse because it looks like the hand is telling you to clear aggressively so that your Glide draws you net positive cards, right? Put yourself to 4 cards or less. But then that would mean that you have to reset the discount on your Moarg, right? Or if you philosophy it, one of those Moargs, you waste the discount.
That's true.
It's so difficult.
I mean, it is very difficult. Even on the other side, though, I would say lambyseries next turn isn't that easy either. Lily-Pad Lurker is good, but getting Doomhammer guaranteed for turn 5 is also a very high priority. But then you know they have the Rustrot Viper in their deck, so maybe not going for the weapon. Maybe you shouldn't go for the weapon and should just go all in on the board plan. So much, so many complicated lines, even with such an aggressive deck such as this one. Trading away the Rustrot Rust Rot Viper, though. I'm having an easier time saying that than Lorinda, at least. It's still a very bold decision, because that could be the key card to fight back against a weapon strategy, as lambyseries now knows he can go for.
Yeah, I mean, che0nsu is like, I haven't seen a cage match, so let me trade this back. I was going to say Lamby's turn very much depends on what che0nsu goes for. If he says he can't clear the board, I kind of like the idea of getting the weapon so that you can fight back against like a greeted out Arcanist plus the Immolation Aura and have the weapon. But if he did clear, I would have just played the Lily Pad Lurker. But it was the exact combination of clearing and trading away the answer to the Doomhammer that I think led Lamby to this decision. And now che0nsu is once again left with, is this glide even good? He resets all of the discounts, but these discounts do a fat load of nothing if he has to use it for clearing and then have no counterplay for actual OTK.
I mean, what if you just go Philosophy, Arcanist, Moarg, Fellscream Blast? You're burning so much of your combo potential, obviously, but you're just ahead on board. If they go for the Doomhammer, you just go for the Glide next turn, hopefully get rid of all their burn spells alongside it. It was an interesting way to go about it. But either way, he goes for a very, very different route, just shuffling in, getting rid of his discounts now. And he gets himself what is, all in all, a pretty good hand, actually.
He got the Viper back!
Oh, yes.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Honestly, I like the creativity of your play. It's super all-in, but Lamby's list is not running spell-based damage on minions, right? So the Moargs are very likely to stick. They buy him time to go for the Glide. But Lamby, hands clasped together in prayer. Please, no Viper, but there is the bad news.
Yeah, Viper, no viping, but unfortunately, that's exactly what it's going to be doing here. It is the absolute nuts, because now the Overload is going to be messing with Lamby. The best he can do is Lily Pad Lurker again, which, as you said, is good. It's a powerful play, but it's not necessarily game-winning.
Not sure if che0nsu was supposed to hold his horses a bit before that next tradable, because the I-Beam kind of got stuck now.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Although I'm really not sure what the rest of the mana would have been anyway. Like, if you go I-Beam, then you trade, and then Viper, you float 2 mana after that. And I'm not sure if you're just going to fit in a hero power, but Lamby's reaction, totally understandable. However, I think he's still in a great spot. che0nsu's out of card draw. He is so low on resources. Lamby's on full health. He's seen quite a bit of removal. He just plays for board now. He has so much resources in hand.
Right, and so does he just go Lily Pad Lurker and accept that it doesn't have a battle cry on this turn? Or does he want to go for Canal Slogger and then try and get the battle cry next turn? I'm not entirely sure. It's a bit awkward.
Yeah, it's close, right? The Slogger also overloads him. And going to 6, I guess he can still play the Lily Pad plus Arid Stormer. That's very powerful. The Storm Strikes he pretty much just wants to hold on to until it's really lethal. But for che0nsu, the board clear is abundant. But again, I am so worried about his long-term game plan. He can stall, but towards what?
Towards acrobatics. Like, that's pretty much what he needs next turn, I think, to be able to get anywhere near enough card draw to win the game. Because, as you say, at the moment, he is just slowly dying. If he goes for Arcanist this turn as the full clear, which is very tempting, of course, you know, even if he goes for it this way, yeah, sure.
For healing, yeah.
Yeah. His actual removal capabilities are pretty bad. Immolation Aura on its own hardly scratches most of the mid-range Ellies from this deck.
Yeah, this next board is just gonna stick, it looks like. Or it will take some tanking to deal with the Lily Pad Lurker, which is a win for lambyseries, I'm pretty sure. Just, he can put essentially 9 power on board with the Arid Stormer having Wind Fury. And che0nsu, even if he does get the acrobatics, it's gonna take a lot to complete the quest after that, and then he gets crit and not discounts, which is also not the greatest, but this is a good start.
Oh,
okay.
Spectral into Spectral. He, of course, gets Kurtrus now as well, which is you know, potentially still a factor. It's possible he'll be able to play it, but both philosophies as the next two cards is a disastrous way to end what was looking to be such a promising turn. Just has to straight up pass, let both of these minions hit him, and he's taking a huge amount of damage. Like, this has to be close to lethal.
If those were rock biters instead of storm strikes
right.
on the arid stormer, but who knows? He could get a rock biter here. So timing's pretty good. That's
good. Yeah, that's huge.
Oh my goodness!
Oh!
Storm strike again. I mean, he just goes gyro worm, and then he has 9 from hand next turn.
Absolutely. He, I guess, would consider Molten Blast, because not only does it not require minions, it adds minions to the board, so he can at the very least go Molten Blast, double Storm Strike, both the 1/1s. And so even though it's 1 less damage, it does give him much more safety of actually being able to play the Storm Strikes.
True. And even though che0nsu has Kurt, I am not sure if there are even runner outs here. Let's say the very next draw is Acrobatics, right? He goes Kurt, Acro, then he doesn't even have mana to play Il'gynoth. Ilgi will cost 2 by then.
Yeah.
And he'll only have 1 left, so I don't think he can get lethal. With 2 Arcanist played, I don't think he can clear this board either. And that's not even accounting for the healing. Oh, I forgot about the Sigil though. Does that change anything?
Oh, Sigil into Moog. It's... Oh!
He can clear some...
He can clear and heal for 1 billion, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if he wins from that point, but...
He just wins on board then? I don't know.
Oh.
I think so. I think that's the line. Okay, hold on. So you play both philosophies. They're not going to get better than this for a long time. And so you have 3 Moargs. 2 Moargs, I beam the 4/7. 3rd Moarg, Fell Scream the 3 minions. Am I inventing mana? I don't think I am. But...
So wait, you're I-beaming the 4/7 and then Fell Scream blasting the rest?
Yeah, okay. It's a clear for sure. And then you end up with 3 Moargs on board. I think you can fit a Hero Power face as well.
Sure.
And you heal for 24, so you're at full health.
Oh my god.
A 7/7 Kurt, and you win like that? I don't know.
Okay, he's going for an alternate route, it looks like, where he's trying to develop some amount, but hold back a Moarg to try and keep the combo alive.
Oh, okay. Alright, it's still a full clear.
Okay.
He feels out of range of Storm Strikes, but I don't know, I was kind of digging the board game plan, because this line still uses the Fell Scream Blast, and so you only really have 6 burst with Il'gynoth, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's a juicy draw, though. Granite Forge Born first. Yep, absolutely. Slam down the cage match. Next turn. Double Storm Strike, and hoping that that will be able to get there. It should be. I think it has to be a miracle now for che0nsu to be able to hold his own in this game.
If this is Acrobatics, Kurtrus into Nope, nothing.
Yeah, that's just it.
Well, there's still a board game plan. I mean... You can heal 6, get rid of the 4/5. Okay, sorry, 2 Storm Strikes by then is 16 damage? And he's overloaded 2, so he can't play the Molten as well?
He can't play the Molten as well, yeah, so he'd heal up to 20 plus 2. Okay, so he can be not dead.
Yes. The best he can do.
Yeah. Problem is, though, that the fact that there's still a Moog on board means that this Kurtrus just gets absolutely mown down by these Storm Strikes very happily. I mean, maybe even just go for a Molten Blast to summon like 6 1/1s, right? Like, or I guess it would just be 4 here, but like, that's still pretty strong.
I mean, clearing these minions, that's just it. As long as Lamby has a way to clear Il'gynoth, which he has plenty of health to deal with it. che0nsu's out of outs, essentially, because all of the studies have been used, all of the removal / lifesteal spells have been used. So the Il'gynoth, the only damage you're getting from Il'gynoth is it attacking, which is unrealistic to expect that to do 28. So Lamby simply has to play control here, and that's game.
I wonder if it will actually only summon 2. Is it like the excess that comes from unstable Shadow Bolt as well? Like, is Molten Blast actually only dealing 2 and then like Moog doubles it or something weird like that? Like,
I don't know.
There's some strange.
I hope Lamby does it for science.
Yeah, that would be cool.
But I think he's probably just gonna Storm Strike twice. And then you like hit face twice. Does he even have to kill the Moarg here? Oh, he's leaving the Kurt up? Oh, he's gonna tank the... Oh, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, this works too, right?
Okay,
Lamby knows there's 0 ways to heal left for che0nsu,
Yep.
literally 0. So he just sets up lethal like this as well.
Okay, that's a peddler, which you can then trade. Whatever you get costs 2 less. It is Il'gynoth, but it is not going to be good enough. lambyseries, after a rough couple of games in the middle with his Warlock, dabs his way through to the quarterfinals tomorrow. Very well played. What we have been hoping for from lambyseries, because, you know, he always talks a big talk, but finally he can dab a big dab to go alongside that. I don't know. He's winning some games is the point of what I'm trying to say, and I'm happy to see it.
I'm always so happy for Lamby, and then he throws out the dab and I just punch my table. Why do you have to ruin it like this? Oh, Lamby. Anyway, very, very well deserved. Again, this last pan out. I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen any match in this meta just go all the way down to the wire, where you end up in this kind of stalemate situation where che0nsu had the option to play 3 Moargs and have them all on board and try to win that way. He had no good ways to get burst from Il'gynoth by that point, but he could have potentially stuck a 7-7 after that. I don't know. I think that is what I would have gone for, but against the hand that Lamby had, which is Storm Strike anyway, right? So if you have Moargs, then your 7-7 is going to blow up immediately.
Yep.
Maybe still would have lost. But so interesting that Demon Hunter has these maybe different outs to victory that don't necessarily rely on the OTK, and also very interesting and well navigated the way that Lamby picked them apart.
And I have to say, I've got to hold my hands up. To be fair to Lamby, even though I was criticizing him for not bringing the OTK Demon Hunter, so far today it has been banned 0